Hey, this is Robert, and thank you so much for tuning in to Station Square. And I'm praying that everybody is doing okay and, just continuing to truck on by through the year. And I know it's almost just about wrapping up, which is kind of crazy to me. But yeah, we are going to be shooting the breeze and chatting with my special guest. So we kind of did an episode like a few months ago, but we just wanted to redo it just for quality purposes. But we're back in our home's boot studio. But this is Gabby. Thank you so much for joining us. I think that when we last spoke, you were traveling a lot. And yeah, I
Yeah.
bet that's probably something that we're going to be talking about, first thing in this interview. So, first thing right off the bat, how are you doing?
Hi. Well, first of all, thank you for having me again. It's always a pleasure to be on. And yeah, I was traveling a lot with my family. So we started out in Spain, then Portugal, and ended up in the UK pretty much our summer.
Yeah, right on. So, I think besides that, let's just talk a little bit about how your 2025 is going, just everything that you've kind of been up to. So, yeah, any stuff that you want to talk about, like voiceover wise, live, just just all
Sure.
yours.
Yeah. Voiceover. So while I was traveling, I did get the privilege of getting a couple works sent over to me that I had to do, a couple projects that I had to work on, that I had booked. So finding a studio that could help me out with the recording and everything was very important, which I was able to find one in Spain, and that's going to be like so my family and I travel a lot to Spain, and so I do need like a base studio there. I already found one. Very grateful for that. And yeah, so traveling, sometimes I do have to do some auditions and sometimes I book gigs, but I make it work out for the most part.
Yeah, exactly. So, about your vacation, just share like a lot about what you did since you just got back to the US. Just share about your little summer vacation, if you may.
Yeah, actually, I actually don't live in the US. I'm based in Mexico. I'm about 4 hours away from Cancun, so I live in a city called Mérida. Um, yeah, and about my vacation, we were traveling in Europe. We started out in Madrid. My son, he plays tennis, so every summer we like to go to Madrid because there's like this really cool tennis camp there. Um, so we've been taking him for the last 2 summers, and he's really enjoyed it. And that's only for like 5 weeks. And then after that, we took a plane over to Portugal, which apparently our confirmation wasn't enough. So the airline had confirmed our voyage, but when we got to the airport, our names didn't pop up. So at the last minute, we had to take a bus from like Madrid to Lisbon, which was fun. Uh, like a 7 hour drive. Uh, and in Lisbon, I actually had to do an audition for one of the production companies that they have my name on their roster, and so I had to do an audition, and I was very grateful that in the hotel that we stayed at in Lisbon, there was this huge closet, like one of these old antique closets. You know which ones I'm talking about, like the grandfather, like the Narnia closets.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like very rich
Yeah.
wood. It was beautiful. And so I just put all of our clothes in there and I set up my little booth with my hype mic and my gear in there and was able to do the recording. I did have to wait until like 1 or 2 in the morning because there was like a couple like parties going on next door. But other than that, it worked out. It worked out. I had a nice quality.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just really thankful that you're able to, just find the time and the space because for a lot of us that do be traveling a lot, and I must emphasize a lot, you got to make what's due with the equipment that you do have, whether it's a closet and just having either a microphone, using your travel setup, anything can work as long because I know that sometimes you just got to improvise, but as long as you show that you're able to do the job, then hey, and if you're having fun while doing it, that it just seals the deal. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yes. Very well put, because you do have to improvise sometimes. I was lucky enough that there was this huge Narnia closet in that hotel room, but usually that's not at my disposal. Usually I'm making forts with mattresses and as many blankets as I can get up into my room, and be nice to the hotel staff so they can help you out with more blankets and pillows. Um, but yeah, you just have to make do with what you have, and if worse comes to worse, you just have to find a studio somewhere sometimes. Or reach out on Facebook or ask around, and sometimes you'll be surprised how many friends we have in common, and somebody can pitch in a hand.
Yeah, that's what's really nice about doing groups like these because you get to find a lot of people that are also on the same or a similar path. Like everybody comes from like different, backgrounds and paths and what have you. So I really do think it's super important that you find, you know, a group of friends. And I know in your case, you found, a lot of your group of pals that we've interviewed, way back in springtime, which, if I'm not mistaken, I think that episode should be out. So,
Yeah.
yeah, just as a quick little plug in.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that episode should be out where we all did that group interview with Keeping Up with Chaos. So, just guys like them are just kind of, once you find those that are on the path that you're doing and they're able to lend you a hand, like it can make some amazing. You just never know the people that you run into. Some are gonna be very instrumental in your career. Some are gonna even help you on a demo, or some that are like, okay, let's just work on a project, and they're kind of almost your boss in a way, where you work on a project with them, and then next thing you know, it just grows into like this long, relationship that, yeah, it's kind of really spontaneous. Like it really is a small world when you really look at it that way.
Definitely. Definitely it is, because whether it's your contact or your contact's contact, but somebody can always like help out and give you some tips, help you out.
Yeah, for sure. We'll talk about keeping up in just a second here, but for now, I know you shared a little bit about, what got you started in voice acting, but from what I recall, it was cartoons. Like a lot of us, we were watching a lot of TV shows and stuff like that. So, what would you say was something like, whether it's a show, a movie, or a book, or anything that really inspired you that made you decide, okay, maybe I could do something like this? So, yeah, just share about, favorite stuff, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, I mean my like if I'm really honest and I go back to my earliest memory, it would have to probably be one of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood episodes. Um because there were so many voices that he was able to use, and um seeing those characters, they really did inspire me when I was a kid, and sometimes I would like copy them. So really it did come from television. The earliest memory has to be Mr. Rogers. Uh Other than that, yeah, the rest are cartoons. So also I did see Wishbone a lot as a kid. I don't know if you know this PBS series. There was a series when I was a kid back in the 90s that was
Oh,
called
yeah, we're
Wishbone.
going way back. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was this dog that would go on adventures through literature, and he was voiced by obviously a voice actor. And on one episode, you got to see like the behind the scenes of how they make Wishbone and all the effects and the sounds that they use, and to make just one episode. And the voice actor came on and talked about how he's the voice for this dog, and I thought that is so cool. Like, he's the voice of this dog. So those types of shows really influenced me.
Yeah, and I think it was also like Rugrats you mentioned before. Yeah.
Yes. Also Rugrats and I mean Disney, all of
Like,
Disney,
come
really
on.
like
Yeah.
yeah, Aladdin and Little Mermaid, everything, Beauty and the Beast and the Lion King and so on and so forth. And so for me that was very pivotal for me in that sense in my childhood. But I
It's
didn't know how to like start. So I would see these even child voice actors. I remember seeing these child like on Disney and stuff, and I was like, oh my God, how do they get to be in that booth? How do they get these gigs? Like, how can I be there? Or what do I have to do? And I didn't know how. And so my parents, well, I grew up in the States, so my parents immigrated to the States when I was 3. So, English being their second language, they didn't know a lot about voiceover or the industry. I mean, my dad eventually did make it into radio, and so he was a radio host for a couple years. Um, and sometimes I would go in and work on some commercials with him. So, my earliest commercials are probably like around 8 or 7 for my earliest commercials. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. I actually didn't know your dad got into radio and, your parents kind of had like a background in broadcasting and showbiz. That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. No, I didn't mention that last time, but yeah. My dad was a radio host, and sometimes I would go in and working in radio, sometimes you have to make your own commercials, and they don't pay you extra. So sometimes my dad would use what he had, which was me, and I helped him out with a couple commercials. Uh, the one that I remember vividly was the stratosphere. It took me forever to learn how to pronounce stratosphere because it was really tricky when I was a kid. So just saying stratosphere so many times in the commercial, I kept on like messing it up until I eventually got it. But for the opening of the Stratosphere Casino in Las Vegas, I did one of the commercials.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
um, yeah, the Stratosphere, I've actually never gone. I've been to Vegas so many times, but I just never been there. So I don't really know how that's like. But I have been to like Circus Circus, let me see, I think there's like this New York hotel over there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
New York, New
Yeah,
York.
they got a lot going on. So look, next time you go to Vegas, like, check out, like, anything that's on the strip or just anything that's like, as long as you don't, I know everybody be gambling and drinking. So as long as you party responsibly, let's just say that.
Exactly.
Quick PSA. But yeah, going back to I think you mentioned like watching the behind the scenes of, the PBS Wish phone. You said that kind of reminds me of watching the behind the scenes of how they make the features over at Disney. Like you said, The Lion King, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, so on and so forth. And then they showed like the voice acting process, and I'm like, oh, oh, okay, this looks fun. I could probably do something like this. I mean, I was kind of like a class clown goofball and did stage stuff. I could probably do something like this. This seems fun. That, and then I was still in school, so I didn't really figure out how to actually break in per se. But yeah, then 2017, I just had a microphone. I graduated. I was like, you know what? Maybe I can just start doing this. Got a microphone, had this really large empty recording space, reverb everywhere. Some of my earliest auditions, since we're kind of on the subject of early stuff, they're still up on my Casting Call Club if you want to look that up. Like, go back to auditions I did in 2017. It is,
Oh my
ugh,
God,
yeah,
that's so
yeah,
cool.
yeah, it is. Yikes.
I mean, but that's how it started. That's when the magic started for you and your career. And I think it's beautiful that you kept that and that a lot of people don't feel secure enough to leave the beginnings, right? Their first recordings, their first commercials, their first attempt at something new that they absolutely love. And so I love that you have that up.
Yeah, I mean, like, hey, I'm just like, I really wanted to, just erase them from existence, but at the end of the day, I, I told myself, look, how am I really gonna grow if you don't look back on your early stuff, listen to it, and then just make notes on how you've, because chances are we might be talking right now, and in a year or two, we're definitely not going to be like the same as we were like from today. You know what I mean? So it's not bad to just keep some of your early stuff to see how far you've come.
Exactly, exactly. Because sometimes I feel like a lot of us get stuck in a rut and we don't know where to move or if we're even progressing. And sometimes you just feel stuck. And so looking back at your earlier work, listening to yourself back when you were just making an attempt to try something new is very helpful because you can see that growth.
Yep, exactly. So since I mentioned keeping up with chaos earlier, and I may or may not have had another guest on recently that you might see later on down the line, but share about, keeping up with the podcast and yeah, just I know this is more of a question reserved for like, I don't know, Jocelyn or somebody, but yeah, just share about your involvement with the podcast and just how it grew, what was the overall mission or goal, and where you'd like to see in the future. Just yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, okay. So Joss is one of my favorite people out there. And meeting her, we met in the class when we were both studying voiceover. And I thought she was so cool. She was like this cool girl that I was like, oh my God, I'd love to be your friend and meet her. And then I found out that she had a podcast and she was in radio for a couple of years. And so after radio, she started her podcast. And I thought it was so cool. And so then we finally met. I finally was built up the courage to speak to her. And and so then we started to meet weekly with other friends. And the only thing that we would do is just read, like just reading the some scripts in front of people. In the beginning, it's a little like, oh, I don't know if I'm doing this right. Can you just listen? Like you don't even have to get like any feedback. It's just the attempt of exposing yourself in front of others. And so that's what we would practice every single week. We would read in front of each other, try different things, and have a blast doing it. And sometimes we would have like little tips that we would get from teachers. So it wasn't us like guiding, like it's like not the blind guiding the blind. It was like, oh, hey, I heard this tip from this teacher, and he said, like, do this. So maybe you want to try it, maybe not. I don't know. You know, but it was just attempting to read a script in front of other people and just exposing yourself and trying something new. And so that's why we started to meet weekly. Once we started having more fun and got more comfortable with each other, that's when we realized, hey, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to make a podcast. And so we started a podcast separate from Jocelyn's podcast. And then eventually, because life is so chaotic and some of us are our mothers and we have other things going on besides our VO work, um, we decided to merge them because it's not only about us in the industry, like, yes, it's about us, but it's also about like life and what we're going through in our personal life and sometimes the chaos that comes with that as we grow in our professional career.
Yeah, because with so many podcasts, you have certain themes or what is the overall structure, but I'm just really glad that you kind of found it pretty early on where, okay, life can be pretty stressful. We're both moms, so on and so forth, which is kind of a really good, you know, just a venture into just describing like, oh, how is it like being, taking care of family, to having kids and also juggling a full-time voiceover career. So that's actually kind of like the next question is, so yeah, being a mom, and I think I probably already asked this on the podcast, but I think I wouldn't be remiss if I didn't, ask again just as a refresher. So for you, being a mother and just taking care of a family and also doing this, What is something that's been really helping you just juggling, you know, these two full-time jobs as so to speak, and just still doing it on a day-by-day basis, pretty much?
Well, I would have to say that having a partner that is also very empathetic and supporting has been, for me, I feel very lucky because I can count on my husband for anything. And he completely, um, he's like my little cheerleader. You know, he goes out and he's my PR when he's in front of business partners and um, or when I have a booking, he'll sometimes drive me to the studio, but if not, I'll go on my own. And he's with our son. So having a partner that fully supports my dream and my career and knows that, sometimes we're gonna eat out if mom is working, like that's not a problem. Or Mm, I mean, it's weird to say like, oh, he doesn't get mad that the house is a mess because no one should get mad that the house is a mess, but he doesn't say anything. He's like, okay. And he'll do it for me. So having a partner that fully supports you, I think is very important. So be careful who you choose.
Oh, yeah. So what would you say was something that you've learned along the way that you kind of sort of wish that you've learned a little sooner, or just something that you really kind of, started to really get the hang of the more that you're pursuing acting, but at the same time, it's like, oh yeah, I got a life, pretty much, or just anything that you kind of learned in VO that you wish that you kind of sort of learned pretty early on in the very beginning.
In my VO career, I would have to say that editing has been like very difficult for me. That has been my Achilles heel. So just getting into the whole tech world and editing and figuring things out with that has been a ride and I'm still on it because I'm still learning and I'm still taking classes on it. And because the acting, I mean, I love to act. That's the creative part. I love doing what I do and I don't it, I'm not, before I would be very shy and oh, don't look at me or just very self-conscious about my acting and how I'm doing it. But now I just act how I think it's should be or my interpretation of it. Just put it out there and open to receive any feedback. And that's fine. But the tech, oh my goodness, the tech has been very difficult for me. It's still a bit of a learning curve.
Yeah, always gotta learn the technology. I know that's something that we kind of were struggling with the last time too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And one of my friends who's in our podcast, he comes from tech. And so whenever he talks about like things about tech, I'm like, "Oh, I wish I could have learned like a whole course before getting like diving into this." I mean, it's not bad, but it would have been helpful. Like, I guess I wouldn't have felt so lost. But I know that every step I take, every mistake I make, and every course that I continue to take will eventually lead me to this point where I want to get to, where I'm not a complete master and expert in tech, but where I'm a little more knowledgeable.
Oh, yeah. So you mentioned about some of the projects that you've been working on. So are there any that you consider to be the most, exciting, or ones that you're really the most proud of this year? Or just in general, period?
This year. Yeah. Okay, so the one that I had to do in Madrid, I had already done it in Mexico, but the writers had changed the script, right? They changed three lines and they wanted, no, it was like five lines, I'm sorry. And the client wanted to see how like they just wanted to see the difference. And so they sent me the script. I'm in Madrid and I get into the booth and I had to read this script. It was very long and under 10 seconds. Um Which at the beginning I was like, yeah, I can do this. And then I got in the booth and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm like 5 seconds over. I kept reading it at 15 and then like 14. And then the engineer was like, we practice this why don't you take it on like a rap song? And I was like, a rap song? He's like, yeah, just do this and this and this. And I was like, okay, okay. I mean, I'm open. Let's do this. Let's rap. And so we did it and we were able to get it in 9 seconds, 50, like 9 seconds, 50. So it was a challenge. It was definitely a challenge, but I think that moment I felt very proud because I was in there for like 30 minutes, like a good 30 minutes trying to get this whole script in under 10 seconds. Like they had the client had even sent us a version that they wanted where they sped up my voice so I sounded like a little mouse, like a little chipmunk. Um And that's how fast they wanted me to speak and say like their whole script in under 10 seconds. So after about 30 minutes of failing, getting it done in 9 seconds 50 was pretty cool.
Sometimes that's how it be. Just gotta get it in a certain amount of time and make sure that you don't flub anything up, but still read with clarity, which is, it's definitely like, for a lot of people who naturally speak very fast, like I do, it can be kind of like, oh, how can I talk fast and still at the same time not make sure that my enunciation is all muddied up or anything. So that's also a very unique challenge to have. Not, I'm saying a unique challenge. It's kind of like an obstacle, but hey, look, if you do this for a while, like eventually you'll start getting into the habit of like, actually mastering it or getting better. Like most of the time, we're all just still learning new stuff every day. Like, let's just be completely frank here. So, I guess you kind of already mentioned this too, but what is something that you cherish so much after being in the VO business for a few years?
After being in this business for a couple of years, I would have to say all the people that I've met. That's been very satisfying. Um, it's not only that I get to do what I love and what I'm passionate about, which is creating and acting. But I've also gotten to know a lot of amazing people. So I've made some really good friends in this whole industry, in every part of this industry, and even met friends of their friends. And that's led to many other new opportunities, which has been really cool. So I would have to say, like, meeting all these new wonderful people.
Yep, absolutely. And what would you say is the biggest thing that's been really keeping you positive throughout the year?
I think the so back when I was starting VO, when I was barely like taking classes for it, I did have like in the back of my mind this thought like, what if in a year I'm bored? What if in the end, like it's really not for me and maybe I thought it was, but it's not. Or am I still gonna feel this excited about VO in 2, 3 years? And the answer is yes. Like I absolutely love voiceover and working in voiceover, and it's exciting. I think booking is exciting, but also being able to go in and get a new script and like it's the creating part that I love. Like putting in your little input and stuff into a script that a couple writers took probably months to create, and then you're adding like in the salt and the seasoning and everything to make this whole project complete. So I think that just in general has been very motivating. It's exciting.
So would you say that in a nutshell just keeps on? It's like that pivotal moment that keeps reminding you why you just love acting and performing and doing all this crazy stuff to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. It's because you keep creating and not every project is the same. So you get to it's not mundane. It's not the same thing every single time, which could get a little boring, I guess. Um, it it changes. You have a commercial script for, you're a busy mom and you need the house to be clean. So here's this new product. Or you're sick, you need medical care. Well, you could go here. Or it just you get to use all these different like faces and voices that you have within yourself. So just also discovering that you are capable of producing all these new ideas. So the creative part of it is what keeps me motivated.
Amen. So, what is also something that, because I know a lot of podcasts, we mainly talk about like self care and mental health and stuff like that. So, what would you say it's, if you've been dabbling into any new like hobbies or anything that's also been, that helps you recharge your batteries, like in case of times get tough, or just let's hear it.
Yeah. So recently we did have, unfortunately, we did have a loss in our family.
Oh, I'm so
And
sorry.
thank you. And I didn't get back in the booth right away. I didn't feel like motivated to, because of this loss. I was in the process of mourning and everything. And so I did have to take a step back. And instead of working in VO as a voice actor, I did other things. Like I created this logo for my website. So being able to, for me, drawing and singing is what really lets me let out all my energy and emotions that I may be going through. So for me, those two things are very important. So if I can draw and if I can sing, then I am good. That's personally what I do. But if I can't sing, let's say, I don't know, it's the middle of the night and I'm having this crisis, or I can't draw because I didn't bring my sketchbook and my pencils, then I like to go and into the bathroom by myself where no one's gonna bug me. And I like to get in the bath and listen to music or just breathe. Like, just take a moment for myself where I can just breathe. So, breathing for me has been also very important.
Yeah. And I think it's so super vital to just have something that just keeps you going, whether if life gets really can really test your patience or just when tragedies like this happen. I think it's really nice to just have, like I said, the community, but also just have other stuff. Like if something is too overwhelming, try something that can refuel those batteries inside of you, or just have that something that just keeps you going, or just keep those that your blood pumping, like just keep the creativity going. Because when somebody passes away, like I don't know if they would really want you to continue being in that low spot. Like it is okay to mourn and cry and everything. Like I'm not saying that like, oh, like just suppress your emotions like that. That doesn't do anybody good at all. But take the time to grieve. Take the time to really let the process, just don't let it just completely consume you, but find something that you can, grieve or mourn in a healthy way. That's just pretty much the TLDR of what I wanted to say. And for those of you that are also going through hard times, like that would be the last bit of advice that I would want to close out with. It's never be afraid to let your voice be heard, even if it's through, trial or error, pain, or just happiness. What is something that gives you the joy, that gives you a reason to keep going, and the reason that, you're still here today? Like, I could just look at everything and I just don't take none of this for granted, because you just never know. Like, I have a booth behind me, a mic, and just talking to amazing people like you. Like, we just don't really take it for granted. We really don't.
Exactly. And you can't because you you just never know. You never know what's going to happen. And I think that that was very beautiful what you said. And if you guys are out there listening and you haven't tried something that you really want to, again, you never know. So you might as well just jump and go for it. Try something new. Try a new hobby. Try a new career. You never know.
Exactly. Yeah. So, what would be the last bit of advice that you would want to leave us with?
I would definitely say take time for yourself to figure stuff out. Um, but like VO wise, try to remember the like if you're feeling like you're stuck, try to remember what got you motivated to even begin considering VO. Like what was that little token, that little whisper that you heard? Try to remember it. And every time you feel stuck, go back to that. And if you can even journal. Um, journaling how you're feeling also works. We did have a friend in our group that she started out great, right? And she was very excited and everything. And then 2 years later, you know, she's feeling stuck and she's feeling down and she's feeling depressed. And she said, I think I might quit. I think I should quit. And I remember like looking through my phone and going back 2 years to when she was very excited about VO. And I reposted what she said about VO, how high it made her feel, how beautiful it made her feel, how like liberating it was. And I was like, this was you 2 years ago. Like, remember that spark and keep going. And she's like, oh my God, you're right. Like, this was me. And I didn't know what I was doing back then. And I was failing and I didn't care because this is what I wanted to do. And so now because I didn't get that booking or because they said I suck or whatever, um, I feel this way. But you're right. You can't let that spark die.
Exactly. So, I think to close this out, you can say your name, list of stuff that you've done at This is Station Square with Robert Jackson, if you'd like to.
Yeah. So I'm Gabriela Borja and it was wonderful to be here. You can look me up on Instagram and it's always a pleasure to see you. And that's about it. This is Station Square with Robert Jackson.
Righto, and check out Keeping Up with Chaos podcast. I think the episode we did as a group is up there. And
Yeah.
yeah, stick around. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, have a lovely rest of the day. Take it easy. And God loves you so much. Bye bye.
Amen.
Amen.